Now we're going to challenge the setup of our movement with our odd objects in our austere environment and focusing in particular on our foot position. So whether we're squatting, lunging, or stepping up, even with our upper body primals or vertical pull, we're going to get creative with our foot position to really challenge this movement. I'm going to be using cinder blocks just to make my points, but I need you to focus on my feet. All right, what we're going to begin is in an active foot position. So now we're going to do a bilateral action, but I'm up on my feet. So I'm up on the balls of my feet. I'm going to rotate here. We're just going to hold this in our front carry position, big old bear hug. But I'm up active on this position. I want you to notice the level of my heels. I'm squatting. The aim is to maintain the level of my heels that I begin in my setup. This is going to be a bad rep. As I squat down, you're going to see my heels elevate and move. Once I'm set up and established in a position, I'm going to use the movement and the weight to challenge said position. So that's active foot, whether I'm in that front carry or overhead or front rack or even suitcase. That's our active foot position. Next we're going to get into is a heel elevated. So I got a 2x4 here. So I'm set up with my heels elevated. Again, we'll go front carry now. I'm squatting, aiming to shoot my knees far forward and finding balance. I'm imagining this is a waiter's tray with drinks, maintaining level there, big vertical chest, but driving my knees forwards. So from heel elevated, I can get into an elevated heel. Again, going back to if we're beginning in a position, I'm using load and movement to challenge that setup. With this, I'm aiming to get as low as I can maintain level heel and then standing it up, fighting for my balance. Here we go. And standing up. This is going to be a poor rep. Getting low and see how my heels raised on that rep. Here's another good one. Fighting, 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 and finishing through, maintaining that level. Now I may shorten my range of motion, but the objective is going to be on the Achilles and that feet. Check the notes below this video to really dive into the different purpose of these setups. All right, from here we're going to get into a staggered stance position. So focusing on my feet, I'm going to use this line on the ground for a perspective. Notice my toes are set up, toes pointing forward, knees over my arches, my insteps. I'm going to stagger my stance. I'm going to begin with toes in line with my arch, my mid step, returning to the squat, seeing that staggered stance. I'll just go a good upright position here. What I'm doing now is squatting, almost sitting into this back leg, trying to lengthen the back Achilles and using the front leg's hamstring to stabilize my action. I want zero rotation or twist within those hips. So I'm going to hit the allotted reps right, allotted reps left, and then we're going to switch it up. Again, fighting, lengthening that back Achilles, strengthening and stabilizing with the front hamstring. You'll notice I have an imbalance between my right and my left. A-okay. This is a great movement to observe that and also be the corrective exercise versus working around a limitation. So use this, really targeting that backside Achilles to lengthen it. The heel elevated here, the elevated heel, that's going to be strengthening that Achilles tendon. This is your opportunity to lengthen its power. Okay, next up, one of my personal favorites is going to be our rocket stance. So getting a little bit farther in our staggered, notice I want to begin with my toes behind my heel, and this can start to drift back further for more of a challenge. But as you begin, I just want toes in line with your heel, still in our A frame, toes pointing forward, knees over arches are in step. But our rocket stance, my back leg, is going to be in that active foot position. So I'll demonstrate here, active foot position. I'll find my load. Okay, from here, I'm going to challenge and sitting straight in here. I'm hitting consecutive reps here, fighting to maintain the heel position as it begins, Still shooting my front knee forward, not trying to get so low as it changes my heel position. Fight to maintain that rocket stance as I begin. All right, so a lot of creativity we can get within that rocket stance, as you'll see here. Now into our ISO elevated, where we had our staggered before. Now what I can do is get on one 2x4, two 2x4s, but notice one leg is ISO elevated. It's a little bit higher than the other. So my pelvis is tempted to tilt here. The objective is to find neutral and then use this movement to challenge that neutral. So we can load up. The objective is to maintain level hips in this action, in this movement. Now from the backside, set up, find neutral, and I'm sitting down, getting as low as I can maintain level hip position. All right, definitely didn't get as low as I needed to. Again, left ankle is my limitation. With this, I can even go one step, pun intended, further. I can get into my staggered stance with the elevation and continue to bias if it's back leg, my Achilles stretch, or if it's front leg now, maintaining this mechanical tension in this movement, since this leg never gets the opportunity to lock out. Quick side view. So you notice it's in a semi-active position here, slight bend in the knee. As I go through my full range of motion, it's still active throughout this, while my other leg is getting full hip extension. All right, so that's an ISO elevation. Fun stuff we can do with that. Last one we're going to be talking about is our split stance. All right. Demonstrating here, give us a big old bear hug. Now I'm going to step this one out or back. We'll go back for this sake. But I can go either active foot on this, flat heel. Whether I'm in this active foot or normal split stance, the objective is going to be to send my front knee as far forward as I can. Ideally, my back leg does not touch or kiss the ground. We want to maintain that mechanical tension throughout this movement. A little bit more challenging if I'm up on this active foot and getting there. Make this more complicated, I can get this weight farther away from my center of gravity, challenging me more, even though it's still 35 pounds. We encourage you, pick an odd object, pick a primal, then find a fun foot position. Big fan of that rocket stance. I can get my push presses even more creative in here, still using it to have fun in there. I even like the rocket stance. I'll go overhead for when we lunge. I'm shorter in my stance, getting as low as I can, still pulling through and getting there, versus our long lunge. By adjusting the foot position, we're finding fun, creative ways to challenge our posture, our position of our limbs, and our proficiency of movement. Notice I'm already out of breath. I only had 35 pounds. Imagine if we're going up to 150 sandbag, 135, and really having fun. So again, get creative, mix and match the primals, find objects to lift, and have some fun empowering your performance.